Well, this is embarrassing. I've been on YouTube for 2 years now. I have some thoughts on the experience so far. 3 main points. It's incredibly time consuming. It's incredibly embarrassing. And it's a wonderful tool for growth. So a lot of times when I'm editing my videos, it's incredibly embarrassing for me. And as I'm editing, I'm just thinking like, not this fucking asshole again. It is uncomfortable to look at my stupid, embarrassing self and see myself repeat the same tendencies and patterns over and over again and just see how cheesy and stupid and fucked up I am. But it's uncomfortable to see your own programming. That's what the objective personality community is about, observing your own programming and overcoming it. You can really see that a lot if you record yourself and watch yourself back. I think it's the only way to grow, is to see your programming and overcome it. That's like what growth is. So you can kind of ignore it for most of your life and not look at it when it comes up, or you can really, really look at it and focus in on it. And that's one thing that YouTube can really help you do. It really just puts your programming in front of your face over and over again. I've just dealt with insecurities. Everybody has insecurities. And just thinking, who fucking cares? Who would want to hear this? How can I be so fucking self-focused? My partner might be demon sleep, because a lot of times when I think of him, he's sort of demon introspection. I'll ask him something about himself, like I did the other day. Hey, when you get up in the morning, do you generally have a plan for the day, or do you just kind of go with the flow? And he literally said to me, I don't know. I don't think about myself all of the time the way that you do. And you know, that's funny. There's a lot of truth to that, but he was also just, you know, being funny, being a stinker. But it's really true. He seems to have this demon introspection. Like, it's wrong and embarrassing and self-focused, shows poor character to introspect, really just sleep process, you know, to understand yourself, to see your programming, sleep process your own self. Like, that is embarrassing to him. Embarrassing and wrong. But when I look at other YouTube channels like mine, I like channels like mine. So it could be someone who is equally self-obsessed. I mean, that's such a negative way to say it. Somebody who is introspective and processing their own experience and trying to understand it. I like to watch that. There might be other people that like to watch me. Some people will be interested in it and some people will be totally turned off. And I'm super comfortable with that. So when I watch people that are introspective on their YouTube channels, I'm not thinking, God, what a self-obsessed navel gazer. I don't judge people in that way. Now, I'm a double decider, so I'm like pretty balanced about people and I don't really judge them super harshly. Or if I do have a judgment, I sort of immediately turn around and kind of look at the other side too. I extend that double deciding to other people, but I also extend it to myself. Editing my videos back, I see how self-absorbed I am, or, you know, see some tendency or programming in myself that's kind of embarrassing and hard to look at, then I extend that double deciding to myself. Because people have lightness and darkness, they're very complex, and I forgive that in other people, and so it only makes sense that I forgive that in myself as well. There was a time briefly before I started my YouTube channel a couple years ago when I was watching a lot of Frank James, and I really see this in him, especially his early videos. He's just being honest in front of the camera, and you can really see that he's just processing his own neuroticism. What I related to most was his playlastness, and also his super high neuroticism. When he had moments of processing, you know, neurotic things, I didn't think like, ooh, that's gross. I thought, how admirable that he's, you know, sifting through this, doing it in front of others, you know, sharing that process with others. I think that that is courageous, and that approach of sifting through your own bullshit in front of other people and sharing that process with other people could accelerate growth potentially. Watching the Frank James channel was probably one of the reasons that, you know, inspired me to start a channel, but it's also how I found out about objective personality, because he mentioned it in one of his videos and he had been typed, and playlast was, you know, one of his parts, and that really clicked with me. Starting the channel was also sort of the beginning of starting to untangle pessimism. I had quite a lot of success ending the habit of anxiety, and I thought, if you can see anxiety as a habit, stop engaging in that habit, then probably the same thing can be done for pessimism and any mood. All moods are just habits. They're all chemical related, and you can change that physiology and break the habit and break the programming around that particular mood. I mean, not that you would never have fear or ever have anxiety. It's not a rejection or a pushing away. It's sort of an acceptance of the range of human emotions, an acceptance of the idea that you can be responsible for your state. The beginning of my channel was sort of the beginning of that journey for me. And that's why I chose the name Miserable Cow. A lot of people have mentioned, you know, the name is too negative or too real, too honest. Somebody told me, you know, maybe your channel name is too honest. But the only way for me to untangle pessimism was to approach it in this way. My whole life, I've always been aware of toxic positivity, even before there was a name for it. And I think it's sort of this feeling of just being innately allergic to toxic positivity. So I think in the beginning of the channel, I wanted to find a way to communicate with other pessimists, find a way to communicate with myself, to communicate with my own pessimism in a way that doesn't feel so gross. That toxic positivity approach will never, ever, ever work for someone like me and for other people who sort of have a habit of pessimism. And so I wanted to be accepting of the darkness, an acceptance and a compassion for the miserable. Because if I were to resist the miserable or go unconscious every time it comes up, then it would become a monster that could rule my life, this powerful negative influence on my life. But when I accept it and let it in and look at it, then it doesn't have that power over me. It is just one aspect of the continuum of human experience. So when I think about the miserable cow, it's one of those baby, curly-haired, tiny cows with the really long eyelashes. An adorable, cuddly, cute cow. You listen to it and you sit down next to it and you give it a hug. It's like we don't hate Eeyore. We sit down with Eeyore and we just hang out with him and we let him be miserable. It's like just this allowing that misery to be and play itself out until it gets tired and moves on. You have to give the darkness some kind of a voice so that it doesn't become a monster and so that it doesn't exert so much influence over your life. It actually does a lot of harm to hate and resist those darker, shadowier parts. So my misery is a soft and lovable creature that deserves compassion. And ultimately, it's my responsibility to be that compassion for my own shadowy creatures. So let's normalize being normal. Everybody has ups and downs. Everybody has light and dark. Everybody has programming. And it's not only when I'm playing my videos back and editing them that I learn this stuff, but it's also the process of generating ideas for new videos. I think every day. I'm always thinking and sleep processing. That's just sort of my MO. All of that content has become my YouTube topics. The pressure of needing new topics keeps my attention on my own programming more current. It keeps me with it on a daily basis. So I find that I'm going unconscious less and less. And I'm bringing those shadowy things up from my unconscious more. Bring them up and sift through them really gently over time. It's not overwhelming. It's not breaking me. And all of these things have to really go through this sleep process before I can blast them. So my animals are consume, sleep, blast, and then play. So things are pretty thoroughly sleep processed before they make it to filming. And then editing is sort of just reconsuming everything that I've already sleep processed. So that sort of reiterates and I see new things. There are times when I feel kind of insecure and it freaks me out that there are people watching me. It kind of seems to only bother me when I'm feeling particularly insecure. Most of the time it doesn't, because I've been aware for so long that some people really like me and some people don't. A lot of people don't like me. Actually, one of my favorite comments, the first time I saw you, I was really repulsed by your personality. But now, something like now I can kind of see where you're coming from. Let's see, another all-time favorite comment. Somebody said, "She's a strange worded woman with horrid trotters." I want to like print it on a mug or something. She's a strange worded woman with horrid trotters. That's pretty good. Yeah, so like some people like me, some people don't. And I think like being a double decider kind of helps. Also, just being a little socially weird kind of helps. I've been myself for 44 years, so I'm super comfortable at this point with the fact that some people just don't like me. And I have the same reactions to other people that I watch. You know, this is very normal human thing that you're sort of turned off by certain personalities. I noticed this on Facebook, the same person reacting in the same way over and over again, and you just think like, ugh, why don't they get it? Like maybe they're really hung up on decider issues, and that's hard for me to understand or relate to. You know, watching other YouTubers and just think like, I don't like that person. You know, I couldn't be friends with that person. That judgment is normal and natural, but it's also good to get to a point where you're really double deciding if that's not something that comes naturally to you. To notice, like as Dave and Shan say, that you have to do the math. If people are having trouble processing something and you don't really get it, like I don't really understand deciders being weird about people issues, then I have to do the math and understand that I'm weird, but in a different way. So I'm weird with things. I'm weird with observer issues. You know, if you're generally a good person and you're working towards becoming a better person, then you're doing awesome. You're never going to please everyone. There's really not anyone that everybody likes. Another thing that really surprised me about YouTube is that it is incredibly time consuming and difficult. So first of all, for me, having low blast, the editing process is so much more difficult because there's a lot of ums and ands. It's really difficult for me to deliver, you know, a really clean blast communication that has a beginning, middle, and end. I'm going off on a lot of tangents. I cannot keep the NE under control. I script out my videos, but as I'm speaking, I think of new things while I'm filming and go off on hundreds of tangents. I edit out a lot. A lot of times my videos are like 38 minutes of footage and I edit them down like hopefully to, 16 minutes if I'm lucky. And I'm working on getting faster and faster. The other thing that has made it really time consuming is just observer issues. I feel really kind of stupid because it was taking me so long to edit videos. iMovie kept crashing and I sort of thought like, this is what making videos is. Like other people live like this too. Well, it turns out that my computer was fatally flawed. And my partner kept checking it and he's like, what are you doing to this computer? Like, how are you bogging down this computer so much? We did all this diagnostic work, tried to debug it, and just could not figure out why is this process so cumbersome? This is a powerful computer. Theoretically, it should have handled the job pretty well. My partner, after running diagnostics and debugging it and looking at it over and over again, one day he just got frustrated and he said, just buy another computer. You make impulsive financial decisions all the time. Do that right now. Go online and buy a fucking computer because I am done dealing with that piece of shit. Yeah, I went online and I got a new MacBook Air. And ever since then, I'm editing videos so fast. And I find this so embarrassing. It's embarrassing to me how much time I spent prior to make these shitty, mediocre videos. I'm embarrassed for myself that I put so much time and energy into these videos that really aren't that good. But also what it tells me is that I must be committed to this process. Sometimes I've wondered, why do I do this? Why do I put effort into this? And I haven't always been sure. But clearly I'm getting something out of it. I think that my growth has accelerated since I created this channel. And I highly recommend it to anyone. I just think it's a great approach. It's a great tool to use for growth. If you just film yourself and watch yourself back, maybe even the added dimension of doing this in front of other people for an audience, maybe that could accelerate growth even more. It does for me. It seems like it does. And I've also gotten a lot of value in discovering the objective personality community. That's been incredibly valuable. Just, taking this YouTube journey has sort of been my objective personality journey at the same time. Being part of that community is incredibly valuable. It's been really amazing to be able to talk with people about saviors and demons, to be able to talk to people who understand what I mean when I'm using that jargon, and to speak to an audience that is on board with that idea that we need to bring our shadows up into consciousness and process them. People who understand that that is literally what growth is. So it's really great to be on that journey and to speak to that process, and I think I'll keep doing it.